Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
I think success, right? I look at, we've been here for now 2 years now. I think success, everyone kind of, the natural human way to look at it is, well, it's got to go this way. It doesn't happen that way. It's more so like, you know what I mean? And it's just, we got to continue to keep climbing. And, part of being tough is also learning how to take a punch. No question. Everyone thinks it's about punching, but when you can take a punch, settle back, refocus, right, and build upon that, that's another element of the toughness, right? So this happens. We took an L last week. It's what it is. You know what I mean? And so to sit here and act like it's the end of the world for us, no. Learning experience. We needed it, right? Let's grow from it. Let's not let it happen again.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. What's up, DB?
What is going on? I don't even have any idea why that happens.
Shane, is he on?
Who knows, man? It's almost like I work here, but you never know.
Yeah. Yeah, he is?
Actually, I'm not.
Because I can't hear him.
That's okay.
I mean, I'd like to have a co-host today.
That's fine.
It'll be, it's some, I don't even know if somebody, oh, I heard him. You there?
Who?
Yeah, there you're back. Okay.
Well, it's totally Shane.
And now you're gone.
Yeah, it's totally Shane.
Shane, knock it off.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, really good.
We've got a game day today.
Locally.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I see you wear your Monarch colors. Good for you.
That was an accident, actually.
No, it wasn't.
It was. So I picked.
No, because you know what it is?
What?
It's the minute we had that segment with Coach. I love Coach Williams. I was like, oh, okay. I like him too, but I didn't know you're going to be splitting your allegiance with the Mustangs and the Monarchs.
No, so here's what happened. I wanted to wear the jeans today.
Yeah.
So I picked out the jeans, and I picked out a shirt that was lighter color to go with the jeans.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, so I can't go like the khaki quarter zip on top of the kind of khaki shirt here.
Yeah.
So it was really just a fashion choice, not a.
Yeah, Ravi Lulla here for the Pamaran.
I do like Coach Williams.
I know.
I do like Coach Williams.
You talked about it for a long time. Yeah, it'd be a good one tonight. It's homecoming for us, which is really, 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 really late.
I was gonna say that's really late.
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention to why it wasn't an earlier game, but we had to move it. I think it conflicted with a holiday maybe or something.
Oh, okay.
Like
I thought maybe because
it
you
was
got
something like that.
Got some construction going on there too. I didn't know if it was a construction issue.
It's an absolute circus.
It is. Tried to park over there, and tennis coach is like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to walk through the building with me." And I was like, "Thanks, ma'am."
Oh yeah, she looked out.
Yeah, she did.
That's cool because a lot of people we always just say go around.
Yeah. She's like, you trying to go to the football game? And I was like, yeah. She's like, you can't get through over here.
Yeah. So that.
But yeah, then she walked me through the building. She was super cool.
Yeah, it's a very, 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 very quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Go Neb City, get ready for the game, show, and we're out.
Yeah. What time are you guys on the road tomorrow?
I think wheels up at 12:55.
Oh, it's a little later then.
No,
you have to be on the plane by noon still.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah, there we go. There it is.
That ain't changed.
There it is. That's all right. Get off to Columbus.
Yeah, I'm actually excited.
Yeah?
I mean, not for the travel, but I have it down to a science now.
Yeah, you got it done?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like leave here, get home. Do you shower again?
Yep. I did.
Get packed. You already packed.
Yep.
So just grab your stuff.
Yep.
Then get to Lincoln.
Let the dogs out.
37 minutes.
39 to pull into the airport because I have to go past.
37 to campus.
4.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty good. 30.
It's like I listen to you sometimes.
But I've got to go from 9th Street to the municipal airport exit.
Okay. I've actually never flown out of Lincoln.
Yeah. So crazy.
Yeah.
I've never flown from inside the Lincoln airport.
Just always at the
Just
with
go
the team.
to even when I was playing
Back in the day?
we never went inside.
Really?
No.
See, they take care of you.
No, but now you do have to go through check. So there's this little garage bay area. But now, like if you've done it once or twice, you're on the regular travel party, you just show ID.
You get kind of like waved through.
Yep, and then coming back, they do security check at the stadium.
It's like the clear pass thing.
It's much faster.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, it's fantastic.
See, they got this thing down.
Yeah, although we waited last week, we probably sat on the plane for hour 30, maybe hour 20.
Yeah,
before we took off. I don't know if they had the fuel or what, but I don't know. It was already not a good mood. So we sat. Needless to say, there was no. Ben and I did not tell any jokes.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm a little surprised that Coach Rule doesn't even have the plane people working on his schedule, where he's like, "Hey, you get fueled by the time we're there, bud. Let's go."
So like I said, and he was locked too because the first, like I said, there's 4 buses ahead of us. They grab their second meal and whatever they need, and they're loading, and I'm in the very back. He was already air-butted up going through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. I'm excited.
Do you like the fact? I kind of like the fact. Did you catch Coach Sat the other day about Coach Rule talking to both sides of the ball in meeting, like film?
Yeah.
That's not
normal.
No, not common.
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool because
he's talked about earlier in the year though how he'll drop in on different meetings and different sides of the ball,
but typically doesn't
doesn't interject necessarily.
Like to let those guys do their job.
Yeah, which is good, but at the same time, when things kind of need to get kicked in gear a little bit, sometimes the CEO has to step in.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you keep everybody on the same page because you almost never see that.
Yeah.
Where offense and defense go over film
together.
Yeah. But it does help
if you feel like there's a disconnect,
or it just alleviates it.
Sure. Yeah.
Like you don't even give it a chance to.
Right.
And I don't know how there could be a disconnect. They were equally as underperforming.
Right. One side is getting a lot more attention than the other, though.
Yeah. So the mayor said something to me last night.
What's that?
I thought was interesting. I don't know, so he said, I gotta find it. By the way, we've added an addition to the show. Dr. K's from the K's Concussion Institute will talk to us at 8:30 if you want to slide that in.
Dr.
One of the better experts around the country is right here in our very own backyard.
Yeah, Dr. Todd K. He's the as you mentioned the K's Concussion Institute right here in Omaha. And honestly, the reason this is my fault actually because
it is actually.
But know him,
but I do like to appease. So I met him through DJ.
Yeah, okay.
And obviously, we've had, like
young men go see him or whatever.
Yeah.
Just you're a football coach. That makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you were talking about Tua Monday.
Yeah, and I put him on the rundown again today because I just can't.
I went through the rundown last night, and I'm like, you know what? If you really can't shake it, because I know it's bugging you.
It is. It bugs me a lot.
So I didn't talk to him until 6 this morning.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that he's on it.
I was like, well, the funny thing was, DJ was like, hey, good morning. Yeah. And we were just talking about we were talking about the game tonight.
Yeah.
Our mindset and stuff. And he said, hey, did you get in touch with Doc? And I said, yeah. Coincidentally, I reached out to him about 10 minutes ago, which was weird to say because it's barely 6 o'clock.
Right,
so,
yeah.
But I did say, hey, apologize for the early text. But I didn't want to text late last night because it's late. So I figured.
Early better than late?
Well, I knew that they opened at 8.
Okay, so yeah.
So I'm like.
He's got to get rolling pretty early.
He doesn't strike me as the type of guy that's hitting that thing at 7:10.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
Not hitting the snooze button a bunch.
Yeah. And when you said it's still bugging you, I was like.
Well, the Grayson McCall thing brought it back up in my head.
Yeah.
So Grayson McCall, he was at Coastal Carolina, kind of helped Jamie Chadwell rise to prominence at Carolina, not Coastal, and then transfers to NC State and just announced that he retired from football because of multiple head injuries. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, okay, here's this college kid, and I get the money's different, and I get this whatever, right?
And you're that's in your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Like you have an affinity for.
I like Grayson McCall. I watched him a ton at Coastal.
Everybody wanted him when he hit the transfer portal.
Yeah, one of a super high profile prospect. I love Jamie Chadwell, although he had a rough night.
Yeah, how about Kennesaw State?
First FBS win ever. But so I'm watching this Grayson McCall thing play out, and I just keep thinking back to Tua. So I actually went back and watched the press conference again.
Yeah.
And I just could not get over how casual he seemed about it. And so I was like, does he not get it? Does he get it? And
I thought it was interesting in the rundown you put, it's still bugging me.
It is.
And I was like, well, you don't have to tell me that. The rundown is for me.
Well, it's for me too. Honestly, it's for both of us because sometimes I'll think of something, I don't want to forget it, so I just put it on there. So there's some spoilers on there for you sometimes. Yeah. But I don't know if it's because I just don't feel like he's taking it seriously, which again, it's his life, whatever. But I don't, if people are friends with me, and I think I've done this to you actually, when people are trying to make really tough decisions or something's going on in their life, the thing that I feel like I provide value in sometimes within that decision-making process when people come to me is making sure they understand the choices they're making, right? So whether it's like, hey, I'm in this relationship, I don't know what to do, whatever, or I got this job offer, I don't know what to do, whatever. I just try and help people see the big picture because I know personally sometimes when you're in it, you get blinders on a little bit, right? And so I think I can provide value in being like, hey, here's the choice that you're actually making and the repercussions to that choice. And
so you're going back and you're listening to Tua, and
I don't think anybody did that.
Nah, see, I disagree.
That's the vibe I got from his tone.
He comes
or he didn't get it.
He comes across as a guy. I don't know. He came across as someone that is willing to deal with the consequences.
See, the reason I say I don't think he understands the consequences is because he compares it to things that are just not in the same ballpark.
It's not the analogy, the driving to work. Yeah, there's some. It's not good.
And that one I could even deal with, but it was you could roll your ankle.
So one of the things I want to ask Doc is, is there a natural minimization?
Like within the player's mind?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there or you'd think it would almost be to the contrary that you would over analyze it?
I think it depends on the person, honestly.
Yeah, well, clearly, but
yeah, but I think also, and I think I brought this up when Tua got hurt originally. I think it's really difficult for people. Like he said, he felt normal again the day after the game.
So do you remember a couple weeks ago when we went it was random, but I was just looking at the game Miami had. I think it was 1-2 at the time or something, and I go, you know what the timeline for Tua is? I said, does he come back after the bye in week 8? It was just kind of random.
Yeah, off the cuff.
And I got two DMs, and it was basically they're just messing with me. It's like there's no way.
Yeah,
he's coming back. He's shutting it down.
I said he should take the season.
I said, well, I said it was more rhetorical, but it wouldn't surprise me if he feels good by now.
Yeah,
and that was
a couple weeks ago, a few weeks,
4 weeks.
Yeah, it was like a week after we went on IR.
Yeah. So,
well, because that's what you hear from guys all the time, right? Is like after a few days, I felt fine.
Yeah.
But what you feel and what's happening internally within your brain are not always the same thing, right?
And coincidentally, we had a player yesterday that was out in sunglasses. And I knew, right away. It's like, okay,
yeah,
he wants to be out here with us, but
yeah, he's dealing with some stuff.
Dealing with the light, and so it was just on my brain. So when I reached out, he was pretty cool about it. So that'll be at 8:30. But you said something about equal. I was talking about the film and equal, and we're mad at one guy more than the other.
Yeah, that's been bothering me a lot this week.
Okay, so listen. So the mayor hits me with this. He said, was slammed with work this morning, so just catching up on the show now. He said, I feel like everyone is upside down on their criticisms, in my opinion. The offense moved the ball. The defense and special teams were abysmal. Complementary football is a two-way street. Satterfield getting a lot of heat that should be on White with the arms up emoji. Agree?
Yeah, I think. Well, yes.
Okay, so let's say he's right. Do you know why I think that is? Other than, because we kind of dumb it down and we say, oh, we like a guy versus we don't like a guy.
I boil it down to track record.
Okay, That's part of it.
Yeah.
And also, I think we feel some type of way about the press conference.
Yeah.
However ridiculous it was.
100%. Yes. That's a big part of it. I really think so. Like if Satterfield is better in front of the media.
Even though I told you, I'm like, I don't think he understood the question.
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. He was talking about staying on schedule. Somebody else was talking about a metric.
Yeah.
Right? That's how I took it. And I think that's probably how it was intended. And that's why yesterday I wasn't concerned about it. I was concerned about some other stuff he said that I didn't love. But I wasn't particularly concerned about the 4 to 6 yards. I even said yesterday, I didn't love Tony White's press conference. He was just more confident. Like he's talking about stuff where he's like, "Oh man, there was some stuff on schematics I would not do again." Like that's a little concerning to me.
No, but I'm telling you that happens.
I'm sure it does, but
way more than you think.
But it doesn't hit my ear great either.
Hey, so
like if I'm gonna sit here and assume the worst out of Satterfield.
No, listen, I'm telling you. See, that stuff happens. And it happens. Now you can like Wyatt. I'm not going to let you off the hook, but I will say this. If after I explain this and you say that's why you don't like it,
okay,
then I'll be okay.
Go ahead.
Because what happens is, I told you when you're coordinating something, most times you'll start with formations, tendencies, and then kind of what they do off of their contingencies. Then you look and you say, okay, this is how we want to play, take advantage or line up with this. So, we were technically an odd front, but we worry constantly about mirroring coverages behind the front. So we thought it would be a good idea. I'm not even going to talk about the front. What happens is you'll come up with fronts.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, we want to give a different look here, or we want to shake this up here.
3-man, 4-man, 5-man, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So I can think of two distinct occasions where we're like, oh, it didn't really look good in practice, but when we're scripting plays, sometimes we like to go worst case scenario to see how it looks, right? So there's this deal, and it's like, it's okay. Maybe they'll get it. It's early in the week. Both times we left the game and we're like, yeah, I didn't really like that. Not doing that again.
Yeah.
Like I'm dead serious. Like it happens.
Yeah.
It can look good, and you think schematically, and you're like, ooh, I have this accounted for and this accounted for, and whether it's your guys aren't comfortable with, you hope that's not it, right? Because you probably shouldn't be calling anything that you're like
that the guys aren't comfortable with, right?
But if it looks good but then you get out in the game and you haven't seen enough of the variations of what they want to do, and you're still in it, it can cause some paralysis. So I could see where he would say that.
I can see how it happens.
I don't think that's why you're mad about it.
It's not.
But that does happen.
I'm not gonna.
Coaches will tell you, man, it's like, ooh, I think this should work against this. And then you get out there and it's like, it didn't work.
Yeah, so it's not for me, and this I could be totally wrong. I'm not going to let myself off the hook either, because that's not what I meant. Like, it's just not. It'd be really easy to sit here and be like, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, like, I'd like him to be prepared for the variations to a degree.
That's not why you're mad, though.
No, not at all. I'm just being totally honest. That's never crossed my mind.
Well, fine. No, I mean, I appreciate the honesty.
The reason it bothered me is, and this could be a completely unreasonable ask, and I don't know, is if he thought something was going to work and then it obviously wasn't, like from the jump, would have liked to see it go to something else.
All right, that's fine, but he's not talking about base. He's talking about calls.
No, I know.
Right? So Coach.
But like almost none of it worked, right?
Coach Queen and I go back and forth over this particular coverage all the time.
Yeah, you hate man-to-man.
That's not it. Wow. He's got you brainwashed, too. I don't hate man-to-man.
I know. I knew it's going to make you mad.
How do you know that?
Because you've told me. You don't like playing man-to-man against mobile quarterbacks because you have your back turned to them and they take off.
I'm very specific. I'm third and short because I don't like us turning our backs to quarterbacks that can scramble. But anyway.
Oh, dang.
Man. Wait till I get a hold of Coach Queen. So sometimes, like, you'll make calls.
Yeah.
There'll be like a 3-by or a 2-by-2 or backs and pistol, and you'll say, okay, hey, they know typically we do this normally. Let's try this. So you may roll it a couple times, and it
just doesn't work.
It doesn't yield the results you get now. And what we don't know is when he called it, they may have gotten gashed.
Yeah.
Right. So he's like, fudge that those. Let's say it's only 3 calls out of 66 snaps.
Mm-hmm.
Those 3 calls might have amassed
all touchdowns,
90
maybe.
yards, or whatever, because you don't really know.
Yeah.
So his delivery let me know, like, I don't know, those weren't good.
So
you know, and he's like, you'll always want some of those back.
Yeah, which I get.
I'm telling you, and it didn't turn out to be a big deal. Yeah. What was I mad about after the Bellevue West game when I was like, man, Coach Huffman got me?
Oh God, what was it? It was
we tried a play call.
Yep.
He got out of he did something different.
Yeah.
And he didn't just convert the first down. They scored.
Yeah. Yeah.
They scored.
What was the play call? Or what was
it was 4th and 1 and he took a shot.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, and typically the way that they lined up, he had a tendency.
Yeah.
Nah, you put that thing in the air. and we played man.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, you know, fit in the run game, you use free safety. It's going to be edge run game. No.
Nope. Just
he won out on the perimeter and he hit his head on the goalpost. And I just looked. I was like, yeah, you know what? Tip your cap.
Got me.
So sometimes that happens.
And I get that. And that's kind of my point, though.
It's weird how I remember that, but
that's kind of my point, though, with Tony White is like that's a thing that struck me as it didn't sound great, but I also don't now think that's an indictment of Tony White as a football coach. Like we give Tony White the benefit of the doubt, and whether that's because he's more confident, because the pressure sounds better, because of the track record, because we just like him more, I don't know.
But sometimes that happens, though.
Right, but like it also happens that an offensive coordinator doesn't totally understand the question you're asking, and he answers something else.
Oh, you're talking about the balance.
Yeah, I'm talking about how we treat them differently, even though I don't think, like, in terms of content, I don't know that either of them had a great presser. In terms of delivery, Tony White's was dramatically better than Marcus Satterfield.
I guess I'm a lot more sympathetic because it's happened.
Sure.
Just last year, we're in the city championship. It's a youth game.
Yeah.
And it's against Huskerson, right? It's all emotional and heated. And these kids are good. And we had beat him earlier in the season. He comes out and they were smaller than us.
Mm-hmm.
He comes out, he runs like 3 toss plays in a row.
Yeah.
I'm like, fudge. I'm like, this dude's just gonna run it down our throat. He was very, very good with the clock.
Mm-hmm.
He just was really good. He just good clock management. And I'm like, fudge, he's even running it to the boundary.
Yeah.
So I wanted to play some 3 so we could get another guy down into the box. This son of a gun on the 4th play throws a halfback pass and they scored. I don't wear hats.
Yeah.
And I pretended to have a hat on. I said, hey, Haas. I just tipped my cap.
Yeah.
Right? Like sometimes that hat. Now, it's not like you don't say, hey, stay as deep as the deepest man in your zone.
Yeah.
It was not an ideal thing to be running for somebody that's going to run halfback pass.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I want that call back. That was terrible.
Right.
Like you got it, but so it happens.
No, I get it. To me, it's not about the specifics. It's about, hey, we're willing to say it happens for Tony White. We're not willing to say it happens for Marcus Satterfield. And they had an equally bad day.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, the track record thing there matters.
No, it does. I get it.
And so does
so does the delivery.
The delivery.
The track record, I think, should matter. The delivery, I think, is what matters to us more, and in reality matters less.
Well, that and the fact we don't like a guy. Some people don't matter what I say; they're just not gonna like it.
We see that, and we see that all the time. Welcome to the internet. That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla. We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, where you can join us a week from tomorrow. And for the pregame live show before UCLA, and special treat for you, we've partnered with Tickets for Less. We're going to give away 4 tickets and a parking pass to that UCLA game right here live on the show. Make sure you come hang out. Got to be present to win. Go to eventbrite.com and reserve your spot. Search for Hurrdat Sports Radio. DB coming up on the show today. Well, I know you know, but we'll tell everybody else, I guess.
You know.
Matt DeMarinis, our buddy from White and Blue Review.
Let's go.
He's got quite a bit of versatility and range, but we'll start doing a little tiny sneak peek of some college basketball with him. 8:30, as you mentioned, we got Dr. K's of the K's Concussion Institute. We'll talk to him about Grayson McCall, Tua, whatever we can think of, just all the things that are bothering me right now about head injuries. 8:45, we got our guy Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider. 9, we've got Michael Bruntz. And then we wrap up the show with Bob Nightengale covering Major League Baseball for USA Today, because we got a World Series that's starting pretty soon.
Yes, we do.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
There's no doubt about what I will be doing tomorrow night in the hotel.
Just relaxing, maybe watching a movie. No.
Yep, yeah, movie. Movie.
Just talking to people about why you hate man-to-man defense.
I don't even know what you're laughing
Shane
at.
liked that
To
one.
be honest.
I see you hanging out at the bar
Yeah, that's
with
not happening.
with a bunch of people.
Although our producer and I mean, he is a treat.
Yeah.
We'll just call him Mick.
Yeah. Like Jagger?
For Big Red Wrap Up down in Lincoln, is a Columbus native.
Yeah.
I've told you about him before. Kind of wears throwbacks and always is like his shoe game. He's always got cool tennis shoes.
Yeah.
But he's out there. You can totally tell. This my man grew up in the 70s. And he's like, hey, I got a spot for you. And we're just talking as I'm walking out. Jay Moore, and I was like, man, do I take him up on this offer? Because I should.
To hit that spot up?
Yeah, and he looks like a hole in the wall kind of guy.
Yeah.
Like
you do love a hole in the wall.
Like low key. But the turnaround is amazingly fast.
Yeah.
Because that first B-Mac is on the he's on the first bus out.
Mm.
I'm like, I don't know, man. It's like,
he's a bus 6 guy.
Can't we just Uber? So, but usually Jess and Alex, the rest of the crew will like get an Uber.
Yeah.
So I'm like, is the 40 minutes worth it? Should I just watch baseball? Can I watch baseball and get volume? Just like I did the last time when I ordered sushi on DoorDash. I'll be staying inside.
I still don't understand. I mean, you explained how, so I get it. But man, that's so far down on the list of stuff I would order on DoorDash.
I had a steak in Indy.
That's a better decision.
I walked too.
That's a worse decision.
My house is I gonna get there. Jitney. It's close. What's
a jitney?
It's a total college town.
What, Indy?
Yeah. And as I was leaving to pick up the food, that's why I told you Portnoy was coming in.
Oh yeah. I don't really have an allegiance to either of these teams, but I'm actually glad.
I have no good experiences in Columbus.
Oh no, I was talking about the World Series.
Oh yeah, me too. I have no good recent experiences since COVID with the World Series
with the Yankees. No,
wow.
What?
Why you got to bring up old stuff? You could have stayed a little more relevant with what was going on in the 2020s. Really? Surprised you didn't bring up 2018. You went from 2018 to 1978.
I just assume nobody's got good experiences with the Yankees, except for our guy DeMarinis.
What will the? Oh, I know, but it's friendly between because he's not
a trash talker.
No, he understands like that stuff.
Yeah, we care about that stuff.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad this is what the.
You know what I'm going to ask him about?
What's that?
His low key man crush for Coach Rule.
I know it's been developing.
I love it because the clips on our group text that he likes from the press conferences it is right there in my wheelhouse.
It's the same stuff that I like.
Yeah, I'm like, but he seems a lot nicer
than me.
Yeah.
That's not true.
I don't know.
Matt's low key pretty snarky.
Oh no, I can tell.
He's nice.
He's got me. Yeah, I can tell.
He's nice to you right now because you guys don't know each other as well yet. But like when you get to know him, he'll get you. He'll start sniping you.
He's gotten me over the past couple years.
I mean, he's no Padilla, but Padilla's probably actually a nicer person, but like he'll cut you. You just don't see it coming.
Hey, so should his Packers be more in the discussion? We kind of glossed over them yesterday. Stop it.
I think Matt LaFleur is really good.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
I don't know if I think Jordan Love's really good.
Why are his 8 interceptions different than Mahomes?
Same reason that Marcus Satterfield's track record is different than Tony White's.
Boy, it's hot. It's hot today. It feels like a Friday, and I know good and well it isn't. It's a lot of snark.
You gotta roll back and do it one more day.
At least our stream has calmed down. That thing was a circus for 4 days.
Yeah, they were popping. Our stream was not handling.
I feel like people were being mean to Kobe too, and he's not in this morning.
I don't think he's in this morning either. I'm gonna say what's up to the stream real quick.
I am not. I just watch.
You just like to monitor everything that's going on.
What's that?
Yeah, exactly. So, like with Columbus, I don't have any really fond memories of post games there or anything, but I do like the fact that this isn't some because you hear that. Well, this game will tell us a lot. Well, what do you be specific? Like, what do you mean? Because I think people will look for another reason to jump ship.
Yeah.
Right, in a game in which you're already 26-point underdogs. So what will it tell you? Like,
Right.
and what are you looking for?
Yeah, it's one of those things that they're not going to define it because then they can change their answer afterward, right? Like it gives them leeway to be emotional about whatever they want to be. But I'll be honest, I'm hearing basically two things from the fan base.
Okay, what are we hearing?
I'm hearing what you're hearing. Hey, this will tell us a lot.
And I haven't delved into specifics.
You're seeing a lot.
My social media game has been,
and then
it's a short week, so I haven't been.
Yeah, on the other side of it, I'm getting basically, this is the thing that actually really bothers me, is people are acting like it'll be a miracle if Nebraska shows up and doesn't lose by 70. And I don't listen, I get Nebraska's probably not going to win this game. Maybe you're this way too. I have no idea. I think they could win the game. I don't think they will, but I don't think it's impossible. People are talking like it is a physical impossibility to win this football game.
Okay, but listen, I'm gonna say this, and I'm certainly not. I'm going back in my head. I'm not like. It seems like I've been a little pro-fan this week. I'm not pro-fan. I don't like to legislate it. Okay, so I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna say that, and I'm gonna move on.
Okay.
What I think is there's still. It's the transitive property in sports that I hate, you hate.
Yeah, because
if Indiana wins 56-7, well, what's Ohio State going to do?
Right.
And as low-hanging a fruit as that sounds, that's just because it's the freshness of the scar. It hasn't even scarred over yet.
I get it. It's still bleeding. It's no.
Yeah, it's still tender.
I get it.
Like my knuckle from the door scrape.
I thought you stopped doing that.
Well, I didn't redo it. It was 2 weeks ago, and it's still hurting me.
2 weeks ago?
Was it 3 weeks ago?
I mean, you got to get some
Was it 3 weeks ago that I did it?
No, it's 2. You got to get some Neosporin on there or something, man. Listen, I'm not trying to legislate how people are being fans.
Dirt on it.
No, like Neosporin because it's actual medicine.
I don't think Neosporin is good for you anymore.
I think
somebody told me that.
That's no big deal.
There's certain people in life that would tell you that I wouldn't trust a lot.
I think I heard that Neosporin isn't good for you.
Wouldn't trust a lot with medical questions.
Is it Neosporin or Chaps? It's something. But anyway.
Those are different things.
That's totally on me.
I'm not trying.
Sometimes I think out loud.
I'm not trying to legislate how people are being fans. I just don't know how they go through life. Genuinely, I'm not trying to be judgmental. I don't know how you walk through your life if you're like, oh, this is, this bad thing happened, right? I get it.
Mm-hmm.
The Indiana was a bad day, bad week. Pick your time frame. It was bad. I don't know how you then continue to go through life and you're like, oh God, Ohio State. Listen, Ohio State's really good. Ohio State's probably going to win this game. 98% chance they win this game. I also just saw Liberty lose to Kennesaw State, which is by far the worst team in FBS right now.
Do you know
that was a bigger spread than the Nebraska?
Do you know why I went to Kennesaw State when we were in Atlanta a couple years ago for hoops?
Why?
I wanted to see their baseball facility because it's nice.
Yeah.
I didn't know their football team was going to pull this off. That would have been. Kelly was in 8th grade. That would have been 4 years ago. 5 years ago.
This was their first FBS win.
No, I'm well aware.
Liberty's good.
Yeah. TK was losing his
They've
mind.
got one of the best coaches in the country.
Yeah. Well, according to you.
They do. They've got a ton of dudes that were either playing at Power 5 or were wanted by Power 5.
Yeah.
They've got all the money in the world. You're telling me there's a bigger gap between Nebraska and Ohio State than there is between Kennesaw and Liberty? I'm not buying it. That's DB. I'm Ravi. We'll be back.
We will be back. will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
That's kind of who we are as an organization. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's we're going to watch the tape and we're going to tell the truth and we're going to have hard conversations and we're going to figure out what things are going wrong and what things are going right. You know what I mean? So not out of the norm for us, you know what I mean? And it's kind of our culture. We got to address the problems at hand and fix them.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. Remember, make sure if you're driving, you've got your seatbelt fastened. Make sure it clicks. It prevents injuries and saves lives, but only when worn properly. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. DB, before we talk to our guy, Matty DeMarinis, who we love dearly, right? Big Matty DeMarinis, guys. He's a Texans fan, too, I think.
Yeah, he is.
So that could I'm interested how he feels about C.J. Stroud. Probably better than he did about Sean Watson, range. But he does. Big boxing guy, too.
Were you yeah.
He loves boxing. I've watched several Crawford fights with him.
I'm going to have to hook him and Newhouse up.
Yeah. Yeah, Nate's like in it, right?
I mean, all the way. Doesn't matter the weight class, random, obscure. Like, we'll talk about guys like, young up-and-comers. Mm-hmm. I hate to say it because I don't like saying nice things about my friend, but Newhouse has range. He has range.
I love that. I don't like saying nice things about my friends.
What?
I've noticed. No, I wanted to get into.
Nobody calls and asks me to hang out. Hey, what are you doing tonight? Next time I hear that, it'll be the first.
That's actually not true. He's always like, I'm staying at home. 100% of the time.
All right, good point.
I wanted to talk a little NFL before we get into Matty DeMarinis here, because there's some interesting games this weekend.
Yeah, very much so.
I think it's a good weekend. I think it's a good weekend, kind of across high school, college, and NFL. Maybe not as high profile as some of the weeks we've had, but
we got a big one in high school tomorrow too. We get Matty Turman. What time's Turman? Is he 7:43?
He's at 7:43 tomorrow.
He needs a bigger segment. That dude is hilarious.
Get the Terminator. That's Elkhorn North.
Yeah,
Scott Elkhorn North.
How about that? I gotta ask him. Hey, when those district allocations came out, how'd you feel?
I mean, he probably feels better now that he broke Bennington's 46-game win streak.
It's just a gauntlet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that district
their
district
is a monster.
But hey, you make it out of that alive, you can do anything.
Shoot, that's how we feel,
right?
Yeah. It's like, yeah, It's nice.
Do you know off the top of your head, and I apologize for putting you on the spot like this, do you know off the top of your head if Millard North is in the playoffs if they win or lose?
They're in.
Regardless?
Yeah.
All right, that's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
I know they got Columbus. They're both 4-4. I wasn't sure what the standings were like.
Millard North is in. No, they could go from like
The
a
seeds
12 to a 15.
Yeah.
But
losing last week was the one that really messed up their seed, right? Because they could have had a bye.
The team that I'm curious about and I shouldn't because it's really none of my business except they've been there for 30 straight years. I think Prep is must win
To get in?
Yeah.
Oof. They've had a little bit of a challenging season.
I think it's must win.
That's a tough spot.
But our district is flipping.
That's brutal.
It's not B's.
No, but it's the gauntlet of A.
When you get a sec,
Mhm.
go look at Blair's schedule.
Oof. I'm afraid to, for their sake.
Mm-hmm.
Man. So we'll talk to Matty Turman tomorrow. He's got a big one coming up. But and I think you guys are the only game tonight, right? Because the South Benson one's forfeited, right?
Yeah, Millard South, yeah.
Yeah.
Millard South is going to have, I think, over 44 points.
Yeah.
And has 2 Division 4 wins, which is hard to do.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty good.
No, I mean, they've had a nice year.
Yeah, no, it's like
they had a pretty good year.
I remember it was Millard North, so I hate to even talk about it. But they had 44 points in week 7 about 7 or 8 years ago, which the wild card points are based on division wins. You get allotted a certain amount of points. The better win you have over teams with winning records, the more points you accrue. We'll finish with somewhere in the 46s, which is high, like almost a full point higher than anybody else, I think. But Millard North had almost that in week 7. That's how good their schedule was.
Yeah.
I think everybody they played that year was in the playoffs.
How do the
No,
I know.
Everybody they played made the playoffs.
I remember. How does it work with these out-of-state games that people are starting?
So that I don't know. I asked Newhouse on the side after, but he said he'd have to wait and see how Basha finished.
Okay. So they do it kind of retroactively.
It's weighted.
It's weighted afterwards.
Yeah,
because like Millard North's got one of those too at Cherry Creek.
Yeah, and you'd like to see. So we did it once during COVID. Coach Frank ended up getting a game with a team from Kansas City. But what are you going to do for? You want to be playing.
Yeah.
They played half a game, then no game, and then North Platte.
Yeah.
They'll play. But it's not like they're playing a ton of football late.
They've played one game in like a month, basically, by the time they'll.
Yeah.
Because I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but it's not like the one half was a real high effort half. So we're talking about one full game in a month leading up to the playoff. Like, I don't know if it's going to matter, but I wouldn't love it. I'm sure Coach Wisdom doesn't love it.
And you could look up, and I mean, it's good. Thank goodness Kearney plays well because Kearney's going to play a 3 seed or be a 3 seed. So with every win that how about their bounce back?
Kearney's good.
With every win that they rack up, that helped.
Yeah,
Millard South quite a bit.
Absolutely. I did want to get the NFL a little bit here because I think there's not.
How are you going to skip college?
We'll get to college later. I got college on the schedule.
Man,
I like college too.
I just said that because my back hurt. I was trying to buy myself some time. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't think there's a lot of.
It's totally made up.
Last.
I don't care what we talk about.
Last week, I felt like there were a lot of kind of marquee matchups. I feel like there's a lot of make or break matchups this week.
I'll give you one, and
in
it's
the
early.
NFL. What's that?
Vikings Rams.
Yes, that one. I don't.
El Stinko. It's just 2.5.
Well, so that's stinky for a different reason.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it might make or break the Rams season.
The Rams are 2-4.
I don't think it does for the Vikings.
No, but that division could.
But that division could get away from them in a hurry.
So, are you one of those guys that think 3 are in?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know how you keep 3. I don't know how you keep one of them out.
Detroit, Green Bay, and Minnesota.
I think so. Although it wouldn't. I don't know. The Bears are going to have the advantage of a bad schedule.
The Bears may have the best defense overall.
Yeah, and Caleb Williams is like
he's
coming along. He's getting better. He looks.
They have good offensive weapons too.
And so I think it's Vikings-Lions for sure. I'm not sure about the other one.
Oh my.
Yeah, I don't.
Vikings and Lions.
No, that's Lions and Tigers.
What? Wait a
And
minute.
Bears.
The other one. So
Oh my!
I think you're low key throwing
I'm
shade at the Packers.
I'm not throwing shade. I just think they're below the Vikings and Lions. I think those are the two best teams in the division.
So is Jamison Williams going to be suspended or not?
Yeah, it's going to be 2 games.
Well, I don't have any idea what he's doing, but I cheer for him. This is terrible because I'm not condoning bad behavior, and at some point you got to snap out of it. But man, he's got one of the craziest stories ever. So I kind of just cheer for him.
Yeah, you.
But I don't want you to keep doing silly stuff and having it be okay.
Get away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like at a certain point, it's, hey, let's figure this out.
So he's looking at, is it 2 games max potentially?
I don't know if it's max, but it sounds like it's going to be 2 games.
So that's why I thought Detroit may go get another wide receiver. But apparently only the Steelers and
Chiefs.
The Chiefs do.
Yeah.
By the way.
Selfish.
How about, do you see the compensation? Let's just call Hopkins for a 4th because.
Yeah.
Wait, is it only a 4th if they get to the Super Bowl?
I think so.
Yeah, I'd assume they get to the Super Bowl, but
I'm going to call it a 4th.
All right, let's call it a 4th.
And the Titans are paying for half his salary.
Yeah, I feel like they got the better end of how to bargain because I think we gave up was it a 2nd or 3rd for Cup?
Second.
I'm like, wait a minute. We paid more for a guy coming off multiple ankle surgeries than the Chiefs did.
Well, who's worth more, DeAndre Hopkins or Devontae Adams?
What do you mean worth?
Like, who would you pay more for? If you're trading for either one of them? Like, if you're sitting there,
probably. Gosh,
I think this is a harder question than people think it is. I think people's gut is that Adams has been better more recently, and I don't know that that's the case.
I think worth, like showing, like consistency.
Okay,
I'm probably gonna take D-Hop.
I think so too.
I just think I know what I'm getting.
Yeah, and I mean they're basically the same age.
31.
D-Hop's 32. Adams is 31.
Okay. This is totally off the top.
The last good season they each had was basically last year. Now, Adams was at 1,100 yards. D-Hop was at 1,000, right? They both had, well, I think actually D-Hop had more touchdowns because Devontae had 0 last year.
No disrespect, Shane.
And D-Hop had 9.
None taken.
So if I'm looking at that.
I don't know why you're out.
And
you think.
And has D-Hop been more or less dramatic than Devontae Adams?
No, I could see that.
So if I'm giving up a 4th or 5th for Devontae or for D-Hop or a 2nd or a 3rd or 4th for Devontae Adams, and I'm only paying half that salary, I feel pretty good if I'm Kansas City.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good pickup. I don't think. I mean, I know it way
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Marquette now showing zone, skips it out. Here's a corner three. Yes, sir! Baylor Shireman ends the drought with 7, with 6. Ashworth outside for Trey with 4. Trey into the paint. Step back 2. It's good! 0.1 seconds left. Trey Alexander a fadeaway 2. 0.1 seconds left. Trey Alexander.
We're back.
God bless JB.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're joined now by our friend Matt DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review. What's up, Matty?
My guys, how are we?
How are we? How are things, Matty?
Good. You know what? Is your music still playing?
I don't know. Hey,
I
listen.
can still hear it.
Hey, Shane, figure it out. All right, how's that, Matty? Is that better?
Hey, it's cool. I can vibe with it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know. I just know
Jiminy
what the
Christmas.
circumstance.
It's Shane's first time, by the way.
You know, I was thinking about this because I think one of the things I like the most about Ravi is he's a guy you can have a conversation with, and you can be confident that it's a judgment-free zone.
Yeah.
And I learned this, or I guess this was like really enhanced my belief in this when he was talking to you a few weeks ago. And it was right around like the first freeze of the season.
Yeah.
And you were telling him how it got to 53 degrees in your house or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not the shocking part. The shocking part was that you looked him straight in the eye and you said, as a lifelong resident of the state of Nebraska, that you sleep with your windows open in the winter.
Year round.
And he just like, nodded and like didn't even like his blood pressure level didn't raise at all. Like he
it is the
like,
honest
like
to goodness truth.
Yeah,
God is my witness.
I would have conducted a psych eval on the spot, like immediately. I would have started asking all the questions because that's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah,
I know it.
I just like it. So, oh man,
like we get into the negative, right? There's a dash in front of some of those numbers.
I'm not doing it. I was gonna try to rationalize it, but it's gonna sound worse.
I heard that and I go, how is Ravi not? How is he just staying cool about that? Like that. I would have so many questions. Like the show would be derailed for the rest of the day.
A couple things there, Matt. Number one.
Okay, relax over there.
I think a lot of people, when they hear me, think judgment-free.
Right?
I think that's the first thing people think when they think Ravi. They're
guy never has any strong opinions.
No,
He's never wrong. I mean, I was like judgment-free Ravi. Yep.
Second, this dude says so many things that are just totally out of pocket that leaving his window open all year didn't even register.
I was like amazed. I was like, I'm like, how is he not even reacting?
The bar is so high now, Matt. It's so high that leaving the window open when it's -20 out is not even. It's like, man, that checks out. Sounds about right.
Almost knocking myself out by washing my face.
that raised some questions.
Matt, I do have a question, though, before we get to the brass tacks, because this kind of gives me a snapshot. If you're like old school Oscar Goldman and you're like building your $6 million man, although it'd be like a $56 million coach or whatever now, and you get the personality traits of your faves, like what are you taking from like Coach Flan, Coach Booth, Coach Rule? Because these are coaches. I'm going to throw Coach Mack in there, too. I tried to guess the ranking of your affinity for those guys, and I went Flan, Kirsten, Mack, Matt. Is that right?
I don't even know if I've ever done that exercise before.
I just go by your social media game and
how you talk to us.
And how you talk to us.
Yeah. Got you. Yeah. I mean,
if by the way we talk to us, the rule would be like 1.
So I asked him about a month ago. we were here one morning. It was early and it's dark. I go, does DeMarinis have a secret crush on Rule? I think he kind of vibes with Matt Rule.
And Matt and Ravi goes, oh yeah, 100%.
I wouldn't say it's a secret. I just don't have the lane for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I'm not. It's not like I'm afraid to announce it publicly or whatever. I just don't think there's much of like, from a social media presence standpoint, which is a different conversation than when you're having it in real life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm not me going out of my way to like tweet something that I liked from Rules, whatever of the day. Doesn't really register with the audience that I've cultivated on Twitter, especially.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't hit with the audience. You know what I'm saying? So there's not really a point to me like pontificating about certain things. But
I do think it's interesting that they share some traits that I think you like.
No, 100%. And I that's why I like hit you guys up, because I know that you guys can understand where I'm coming from on both sides of that, right?
Yeah.
Because you know the subjects of the Creighton side of it with Flan, Booth, Mac, and all those guys. The biggest appeal is just, I'm trying to think about how to put this simply for like radio time wave. Genuine, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of coaches that you come across and that I've come across in all sorts of sports, in all sorts of settings, that you can just tell the competitive switch doesn't shut off, and that it's the main driving force. And I'm not saying that the people I'm talking about in this instance don't possess that chip to an nth degree, because they certainly do. They wouldn't be as good as what they wouldn't be as good as what they do if they didn't have it. But the primary thing is that they care about the people around them first and foremost, and that the journey with those people doesn't begin and end with a practice or a game or a small window in time in terms of a college career. You know what I mean? It extends beyond that. Like, they're invested in these people's lives from basically sophomore, junior year of high school.
Yeah, like
in
15
cases,
on.
Yeah, in volleyball cases, even earlier than that.
Like
You get,
13?
Which is why volleyball almost never misses. I mean, they've done their due diligence
right.
For a decade.
Yeah, that's always weirded me out how early they get their recruiting going. But like, then once the careers are over in terms of their college careers, it extends beyond that. So I mean, it's just that's the most impressive thing when you come across a leader of individuals, especially young individuals, that you can truly resonate with how much they actually care about the development of those people at a formative age. You know what I mean? So that's the biggest thing that hits with Rule with me, and why I really feel for him for what he has to deal with, because I haven't made it a secret with you guys. Like, I just don't think the media climate he's in, especially in Lincoln, is conducive to his style of transparency in that regard, because results are so paramount in this, just with Nebraska football in general, and kind of like chasing their path and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I feel for him, but I resonate with a lot of the things he says, because it hits home with the type of people I'm around on a daily basis.
It's Matt DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review. Matty, when you're looking at, let's just go to the men's basketball first here for Creighton. When you're looking at the way Coach Mack has constructed this roster, this is kind of an unusual one based on how they've done recently, right? The last couple impressive classes would go, or impressive kind of runs would go, hey, you start them off as freshmen, you bring them up for a couple years, they have a really nice run towards the end of their career, you start over the next time around. He's kind of brought in some guys, I don't want to call them mercenaries, but guys that have kind of plugged holes.
Stopgaps.
Stopgaps. That's a good word for it. He's brought in some stopgaps while he waits for a Larry Johnson or a Jackson McAndrew or whoever to be ready. How do you kind of weigh how you think this is going to go when we probably haven't seen this since Maurice Watson and Cole Huff?
That's an interesting question. I don't know if I've thought about it from that point of view, because I guess I don't see. I've seen these type of players before. I guess I think from the standpoint of what this year presents, and I understand. I've certainly heard, the whole like recruiting over young players and not really giving them the runway right away that like 2 years or 3 years ago got with Nemhard, Kaluma, and Trey and those guys. They kind of got thrown to the fire because they were the top guys, even on that team. I think this year with Kalkbrenner back, with Ashworth back, I think you owe the veterans that have invested time in the program, and certainly this is more true for Kalkbrenner than Ashworth, but I think you owe that guy especially the opportunity to have the best chance now to just finish it off as best as he can. So I think that's where the stopgap approach makes a lot of sense. Where it's interesting is they're not the type of statistical stopgaps you've normally seen, right? Like Pop Isaacs is coming off of the year where he didn't shoot the ball well out of the backcourt. So that's interesting, because is he more of the 38% shooter as he was as a freshman, or is he more of the 28% shooter we saw last year, or is it in between? Because if it's either in between or last year, that's probably not going to elevate Creighton's ceiling to the point where it was maybe last year.
Mm.
But if it's more towards where he was as a freshman shooting the ball, that could be pretty interesting. And then Jemiah Neal has never really had a season where you're like, oh, yeah, that guy's knocked down. But, Creighton saw some things in evaluation in terms of maybe where he can be effective in that regard in their system versus Arizona State, which is like you never really understand what they're doing offensively. So it's a different type of system. Defensively, it's different for both of those guys. So it's a transition. And I also think there's a playmaking component with Pop that Creighton is hoping to unlock, and certainly the transition phase of their offense. And I think that makes this year interesting. I don't know how it'll look at the start of things, and I certainly don't think it's going to come without its ups and downs. But the idea of those two and what they can possibly present maybe in March is interesting. If they can fit into the system properly offensively, kind of get a good feel for what is a good shot and what is not a good shot in Creighton's offense and Creighton system. And if they can just get comfortable with the guys around them and vice versa in terms of like sharing the ball, playmaking, playing off one another, I think it could be a pretty interesting team because I think they bring, just a lot of speed and tenacity and a certain skill set that seems untapped at the moment that could accentuate what Ryan calls one of their strengths are. I think that's an appeal from a staff standpoint when you're looking at how they evaluated them.
Hey, Matty, for you, how important is it in the grand scheme of things that they get some clarity on what is going to happen with Fedor?
Pretty huge, pretty massive.
Yeah, it's the way it seems.
I don't know if you guys have had a chance to see him yet, but he's got the goods.
They just don't get guys like mature, experienced, good shooter, good size. Seems kind of critical.
Yeah, he in terms of what you're thinking about, like what could Creighton possibly do this year, which is always the question, you get asked the most. He's pretty important to where that ceiling actually lands and even how high the floor can get, honestly, because the shooting is the first thing that you're like, when he starts ripping a few, you're like, oh boy, that looks fluid, that looks repeatable, that looks interesting. But there's also a playmaking component and just like an understanding of the game from an acumen standpoint that's really interesting. And then you see like, oh, he can, do this with his left hand, do that with his right hand. Like there's some versatility there in terms of like reading the defense and seeing what they're trying to take away from him and going to the counter.
How many cases has the NCAA seen like this where, he's obviously the late withdrawal from the draft, but he's been paid before. You can kind of do that now. Could boil down to semantics. Like,
what's the difference between getting paid from an NIL?
How will they discern between the difference?
Yeah, well, a lot more recently, and certainly a lot this year. So there's either going to be a blanket decision, or it's going to get really messy. You know what I mean? Because when you start, if you grant one, then there's going to be semantics with the other, and then it's just, it all depends on if the NCAA wants to lose another court case or if they want to just say, throw their hands up and say, you know what?
Do whatever you want.
We see where college sports is going, and, having a paycheck in the past isn't the worst thing in the world. So, I think from everybody I've talked to, there's a confidence level there that it'll happen at some point in terms of his eligibility. And it's just because it's just like there's just so many players who are in that under that umbrella now. Like Creighton's not the only team waiting on a Fedor Zugic. He might be at a high end of what that talent pool looks like, but there's going to be a mass decision at some point with these guys because Creighton wasn't the only one who jumped into the international pool for a seasoned professional level player this year. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when that decision comes down. If the NCAA wants to fight it, they're kind of like a war-torn fighter at this point.
Yeah.
They've just been taking beatings left and right, and you're kind of looking at them funny, like, do you want to retire or do you want to keep going? And It'll be interesting to see what battle they choose, what battle plan they choose for that one.
I'm only doing this because of my affinity for one guy and Ravi's former displeasure for another. Who's more important? Who of the two? Who is it more important that they're better than the last time we saw them play meaningful basketball to Creighton's success? Jason Green or Pops Isaac?
You said Pop Isaac?
Pop Isaac, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, considering Ravi's a fan, and I love Jason Green, so I figured let's pit one against the other.
How dare you?
It's
You
funny.
know why I asked the question, though, right? I mean,
I do.
Yeah.
No, 100%. There's an interesting, versatile skill set there with both of those guys potentially. It's interesting because I think that given what this team's strengths are and weaknesses are on paper, that Isaac Trout maybe should be in that group as well.
He looks fantastic,
doesn't he?
Oh,
I mean, Jeremy Anderson told me he's lost about 15 plus pounds.
I guess 20. Yeah, he looks amazing.
Yeah, he's really committed to kind of being that stretch four who can shoot off the move more than he has shown. You know what I mean?
And been one of the better shooters, right? This getting into the regular season. Okay, that's what I hear.
Yeah, so I watched them scrimmage a couple weeks ago, and he was on the second unit because Jason was still good from a health standpoint, and yeah, Isaac came out ripping. I think he hit 3 threes in like maybe 100 seconds and buried the first unit quick. It was like 10-0 fast. And there were different types of threes. They weren't just like stand in the corner, wait for the ball. He was shooting off the move. He was coming to get it. It was pick and pop. Like it was just kind of all the ways you think a 4-man can stretch the floor. He kind of showed it off. So it was really interesting. And I think that's translated, throughout camp so far, if you want to call it that. So he's interesting. But back to your question. I kind of feel like it might be, I'm not saying Pop's not like paramount, but I think there are options there where if it doesn't necessarily work right away or at all, that they have like a Ty Davis who can do some things. They've got Larry Johnson who can do some things. Like Sterling Knox has looked solid. Like they have guys they can give chances if the Pop experiment doesn't hit right away. With Jason, though, there's so much versatility there front court wise, and that he can maybe guard 5s, he can guard 3s, like that. So you're basically looking at 3 positional versatility. His rebounding, I think, is at a higher level than most on the team, so he's in a category there by himself, kind of. I just think he does things that this team doesn't really have a lot of options to replace. When you look at his defensive versatility, the way he's been shooting the ball in training, not necessarily, I don't know if it's translated yet live stuff as much, but the shot looks good and he's worked a lot on it. So if that hits, once the season starts, it wouldn't shock me. I just think there's a lot of skill there that when you look at his size and frame and athleticism, and just like his tenacity too, like he wants to be good. And that's a big key for a lot of players. You know what I mean? It's one thing when you think you're good, but you train that way, and it's another thing when you don't think you're that good and you don't put in the time. Like he wants to be really good. He thinks he's going to be really good. So that's kind of an interesting light bulb moment for young players. So I think Jason is probably the answer to the question.
It's a good answer, Matt. Want to go?
Such a hater.
Want to go back to Miller North guy? Want to go back to something you said about Fedor here a minute ago. You said that he can pretty dramatically change the ceiling of this team. Like, just, you don't have to give me like a win total or something, but kind of when you're looking at it, what do you mean when you say that? Like, what's the ceiling without him? What's the ceiling with him in your mind?
Well, if Ryan Kalkbrenner has the season I think he's going to have, I don't think there is. Like, I think you can dream as big as you want to dream.
Yeah, he's going to be a problem.
With or without Fedor, or both?
Well, I think he's already a problem without Fedor. Let's be honest.
Yeah, he's going to be a
like
problem.
I've said I've said some crazy stuff that's getting me in trouble. Leading into this year, I'm not backing off.
Well, he actually knows he's really good this year. He's exactly who I thought of when you said there's a difference between kind of being good and knowing you're good. And like, he knows he's really good finally, and I think you're good. He's going to take control. He's going to be a monster.
It's so weird that in year 5 you can sound a whole lot different, like just in terms of the confidence you exude from a year 4. You know what I mean? Because you figure like who you are.
It's going to be who you are.
Like, yeah. Like I think by the time like they get to the end of their sophomore seasons, you pretty much like get a good feel for who they are as a player and who they're going to be. You know what I mean? There isn't a whole lot of change in that next 2 years. You know what I mean? But Kalkbrenner is different. I mean, I think there was last year there was a lot of deferment happening just because Baylor and Trey were so good and they have such dominant personalities basketball-wise. You know what I mean? Like, with the ball in their hands, they can do so many things with how they create for themselves and others, you know, that it was kind of easy to take a back seat, get lost in the sauce, just, you know, be the defensive anchor and then, you know, finish when the ball hits your hands. You know what I mean? I'm expecting more of like a dominating presence from Kalkbrenner this year because, you know, he focused a lot on his body in the offseason. He got a full offseason to train. You know, the only time he's ever had this situation where he's just been in the gym focusing on getting better for the next season was the jump he made from freshman to sophomore year when he became, you know, he went from 15 minutes a game to Big East Defensive Player of the Year. So there's like an intrigue there with like, okay, what is the next jump look like then? And so far, what I've seen is like I expect him to be a National Player of the Year type of conversation all season because of how good he looks right now. So it'll be all depends on if they remember he's on the floor or not. Sometimes they forget he's on the floor. So this year's team doesn't have that luxury. They have to be on the ball and they have to establish his presence early and often. So it's interesting.
That's our guy, Matty DeMarinis from the White and Blue Review. Matt, thanks for stepping into my judgment-free zone here, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Matty.
Always a pleasure, fellas.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Well, how much risk do we take when we get up in the morning to go drive to work, get into a car crash? Maybe, I don't know. Everything I think takes risk. So to answer that question, every time we all suit up, we're all taking a risk that we could potentially get hurt, whether it's a concussion, a broken bone, anything. You get up off of the bed the wrong way, you potentially could risk you spraining your ankle. There's just risk in any and everything. And I'm willing to play the odds. That's it.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're joined now by Dr. Todd K of the K's Concussion Institute right here in Omaha. Dr. K, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well. How are you all?
We're good, Doc. We're just kind of playing some clippets. We've been processing through this the last couple of weeks. And, coaching high school football, I thought this may have kind of been in the rearview mirror. There was this heightened sense of awareness, 10, 11 years ago. It seems like the game is getting safer. Let's just start with the basics. When you hear concussions and it's your area of expertise, educate us on what exactly a concussion is.
Yeah, a lot has changed, as you said, in the last 10 to 12 years. And what's encouraging is that we're seeing more and more research that's coming out about concussion. And so really our understanding of the injury is getting more sophisticated by the year. And what we know about concussion in its simplest form is it's really a network disruption injury. And that kind of has several implications. So if it's a disruption, it means that it's a mild injury. And if it's a network disruption, it means that there's several networks in the brain that are involved. And if we understand what those networks are, then we can objectively measure it. And if we can objectively measure it, then we can objectively treat it as well.
So, Dr. Kays, one of my biggest questions, whether it's, with Tua specifically or with other guys, because you hear all the time these guys say, oh, man, I felt great a day or two after the initial hit. How long do you see typically kind of symptoms last versus that network disruption you're talking about last in these concussion cases?
Yeah, when you're talking about symptoms, we have to understand that in the past there was a heavy reliance on self-reporting of symptoms. And the challenge with relying on self-reporting of symptoms is I always give the example of, if you went to a conference and you were up super late and then the next morning you have to get up really early and you don't drink a cup of coffee, and I give you a symptom checklist, very few of us would be at 0 symptoms. And yet that in the past is really what's been driving the decisions that we make from a clinical standpoint. And so as far as symptoms lasting and the networks disrupted, it is kind of on an individual case, but they usually do go hand in hand. And one of the challenges is that really the more a person is well conditioned, as long as they kind of continue to engage in the physical activity that they're used to while minimizing the risk of hitting their head, the likelihood that they'll recover quickly is higher, and then they actually recover faster as a result. And so that's why you do see a lot of times these pro athletes rebound fairly quickly, just because their ability to heal and recover is so much higher because they are so well conditioned. And from a kind of scientific standpoint, our autonomic system is what helps us to regulate most of our body functions. And what's less appreciated is it helps us to kind of return back to balance or homeostasis.
Interesting. Dr. Case, how do you, and you're the expert, so I'm always curious to see how you process feedbacks from all your variables, i.e. patients, right? So you hear, how fine a line is it between being dismissive or coming across as dismissive of potential dangers and risks versus when you just feel like that's the response you get when people feel like they've been handicapped with all the facts, right? Because Ravi, we were going back and forth over the week, and it's like, well, he seems so dismissive about the potential outcomes. And I'm like, or maybe he feels he's so educated that he understands the outcomes. How fine a line is that?
That's a great question that I believe most people really don't consider. And what I would say is that education is paramount in making informed decisions. All of us take on risk, as you were saying just before I hopped on, and that level of risk is obviously heightened when you're playing contact sports. And you have to have informed information about what are those risks that are involved. I would say the line really is that more times than not, people have too little information or they have incorrect information about this injury. And in my experience, when you're able to really break down and articulate for patients what this injury is, what those networks are that are impacted, why they're having the symptoms that they're having, why we're going to approach the treatment and the rehab in the particular way that we are, and what are the clear objectives findings that we're looking for in order to clear them, people have a lot more confidence in what's going on. And it kind of helps to dismiss or demystify, I should say, the magic number of concussions myth that's going around as far as, if you receive a certain amount of concussions, then you're out.
Interesting. So Dr. Case, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's sort of, I think, the thing that bothers me is kind of the multiple concussion cases, right? Where I guess, what does the data tell you both about kind of the risk of another concussion kind of once you've had one or have had multiple? And then how does that change your long-term outlook when you're getting these kind of multiple concussion cases?
Yeah, so what we know is that what's interesting is that when we look at giant data sets, we know that in the early phases, we were actually not that great at treating concussions, and we were returning athletes too soon. And the way that we know that is that within 6 months of after returning them, sometimes we would see as high as 30% of them getting re-injured. And then as we started to learn more and have more specific protocols and targeted treatment, we started to see in data that the risk of re-injury or the actual incident of re-injury started to be less than 3%. So basically less than chance. And so we're getting much more specific in what we're doing and much more objective. And so we can have confidence of when we return somebody, they're in really good shape. So there's that portion. And then as far as the long-term effects, you're really getting at what is often referred to as CTE. And the challenge with CTE and the misinformation out there is that there's actually more articles in the New York Times about CTE than actual confirmed cases. And so I'm not saying that there's not something to CTE. There is some thoughtful research out there, but we definitely have to learn a lot more. And people who are stating that it's a known phenomena, it's something that can be diagnosed while someone's living, that's just not supported by the research. And every once in a while, we do have to talk to athletes about, is it time to consider medical retirement? And I would say that that's extremely rare. Like maybe, in my experience, 1 out of every 2,000 cases, I'm having to have that conversation. And what you're looking at is when the person gets injured, is it taking less to cause the injury? In the acute phases of the injury, are they, is it more intense as far as the symptoms and their response to rehab? Are they taking longer to recover? And, the one person that we had to have a conversation about retiring, it was literally every time we sent them out there, within a week, they're getting injured, even though we were comprehensive and we knew that they were fully healed. And it was finally just time to say, I don't think your brain is set up to be handling playing contact sports.
Mm-hmm. We've only got about 60 seconds here, Doc, and I hear risk mitigation a ton, right, with guardian caps and things like that. But I understand full well that, risk mitigation means to lessen the negative impacts. Is there such a thing as risk mitigation when it comes to concussion protocol?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there is. That's a good question. Some of the technologies that are highly publicized, I would say we're still learning from a research standpoint. What we do know is that there is some research that supports consistently wearing a mouth guard, wearing a helmet that fits, and neck strength can prevent stuff.
Yeah.
But really the more important piece is that, we have to embrace this is going to be an injury, and we really need to be promoting specialized treatment and getting to a specialist as early as possible to mitigate those risks after injury.
That's Dr. Case from the
Fantastic
Case
stuff,
Concussion
Doctor.
Institute.
We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Doc.
That's Dr. Case from the Case Concussion. I feel better.
That's interesting.
I feel better.
Now it just sparks more thought.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's still some concerns, but I feel better, and I did.
Okay.
Might be able to let the Hawk Tua thing go. Let it ride right on down the river.
Ask it, you shall receive. We try to inform.
That's DB. I'm Ravi. We'll be back with Brian Edwards, our Vegas Insider, coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We'll be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio. Now, Vegas insider, senior handicapper, and fan of the cold Budweiser bottles, Brian Edwards.
It's got to be touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
Brian Edwards.
I don't really love it.
Brian Edwards.
The way they're using the cream cheese to butter the bagel.
Brian Edwards.
I'm going with the cowgirl.
Here is Brian Edwards.
Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're joined now by our friend Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider from Major Wager. B. Edwards, what's going on, bud? Oh, we don't have the headphones on. We're muted. Oh no,
You're a mess, B. What's going on?
Oh no, he doesn't have his glasses on. What's happening? This is a disaster.
All right, click that little button for me, B.
We still can't hear you.
Click that mute button. Wow. What is going on?
Oh,
Brian, we can't hear you, buddy. I think you've muted yourself.
He can't find it. He's working on the button. We may have to call him again, Shane.
No, he's got it. I got faith in him.
I don't think he's got it.
Are you sure?
It doesn't seem like he's got it.
He looks confident.
He looks confused.
No, he's laughing at us because we're basically commentating this whole debacle.
I don't really love it.
Oh, I got excited and I thought it was bad. Oh,
No?
Yeah. No, there it is.
We just had him.
I did not have myself muted over here. I don't know what
There
was going
we go. What in the world
All
was
right,
that all
sorry.
about? Did we surprise you that you were on this morning or what?
I promise it wasn't my little button over here. It was muting me down here. I don't know what the hell. Anyway, let's go.
I think Shane might be sabotaging you. I think he might be muting your channel.
He's wanting Damon to get a few laughs.
Yeah, no. So I think he wants to make me mad because he knows I'd rather have you on stream. So if it brings me joy, he doesn't want it to happen. So he sabotages the whole thing.
I got it.
So he has to say, "Oh, we just have to do him on the phone." I'm
Sugar Shane.
I'm still mad at you, B, for your Indiana play last week. Okay, so let's not do that again. Okay, can we not do that?
Oh man, and I would have never thought that happened with Rourke getting hurt. But man, okay, so I kind of tuned that game out. I'm not.
Me too, but I was actually broadcasting.
Right.
I think a lot of people
because he got the big lead. But no, this is a legit question. So I'm so the backup looked good because I wasn't watching in the second half.
So it's a very similar offense. They do what they do, and he ran it well. He arguably threw the best pass of the day, and there were some dimes.
Yeah,
there were probably about 6 or 7 candidates.
So, I mean, I looked at his stats from last year. They were not very good, but obviously it's Cignetti now, and his stats look great last week. So, I mean, I kind of want to play Indiana again this week. I mean, do you think it's not that big of a drop-off from Rourke?
I wish it's a drop-off in terms of maybe over time his passing accuracy, but the offense will look exactly the same. They're not.
I'm sorry.
He's a better
Does he
runner.
give them a little more of a runner? Is that,
Yep,
that's where
he's a significantly better runner than Rourke.
Okay.
I don't know if he's
all right.
good
I think I'm going to add Indiana to my list as well.
Well, the funny thing is Washington is so fickle.
Yeah.
Like what? Like I don't even know who Washington is when they're actually trying to score points and not play the analytics game. They can move the ball.
And it's their third trip east since September 28th. They went at Rutgers, then Michigan at home, then at Iowa. They have had 2 weeks to prepare, though.
All right, let's get right to it. Q's getting 5.5. I wish I knew more about Pitt.
I kind of like this one.
But
I kind of like
the number. I think Pitt. What'd you make the number first of all?
Yeah. Hold on one second. All right, here we go. ACC. I made Pitt 4.
Okay.
Yes.
And it's up to 6.
Right. Last look, there were a few 6s left. It was mostly 5.5s, but if you consider 6 a key number like me, you can buy the half point. Now, I'm a little concerned. Trebor Pena, their leading pass catcher, is doubtful. So, a one less weapon for McCord. And Pitt was a team that's been good to me this year, but they were my top pick 2 weeks ago when they did not get the cover against Cal. We're fortunate to win. And I mean, look, Syracuse, they have back-to-back road wins at UNLV, which I think is a good team. And then after going out west, they had to go to NC State. Now, it was a Friday game out west, so they had an extra day, but that's still a pretty brutal spot going out west, back to Syracuse, and down to NC State. But they still win and cover again, and now they've had 2 weeks. Even though it's a third straight road game, they did have a week off. And McCord, he's been fantastic this year, 65.6% completion percentage, 2,160 passing yards, 19-6 TD/INT ratio. I like LaQuint Allen, their running back. And I just think these are two pretty equal teams, and I think we're going to have a close game, so give me the underdog.
Yeah, we'll get to see UNLV tomorrow night against Boise. That's quietly a very good game. It gets no burn on my television with the Dodgers tomorrow night, but that's going to be a good game. Go ahead, bro.
Kind of the darling of the SEC, Vandy, plus 19 against Texas. How you feeling there?
Did you call them the darling of the SEC?
I did, yeah.
I sensed whatever tone was implied there as well. I made Texas 14.
The covering machine known as Vandy.
Listen, I'm Team Pavia over here. We're fans.
Hey, one of my best friends, his son plays for Vandy here locally, so we're all in on Vandy here.
Go Commodores.
Yeah, man. Who doesn't like Diego Pavia? And so Vandy, I made Texas 14. Vandy's been a double-digit underdog 4 times this year, 4-0 against the spread, 3 outright wins, only lost by 3 in overtime at Missouri. Pavia, 11-1 TD/INT ratio, team best 470 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. And Vandy's defense is a lot better, number 38 nationally against the run, number 40 in total defense. And I just think it's a letdown situation for Texas after playing its arch rival, Oklahoma 2 weeks ago, and then Georgia last week. And look, I mean, Texas, now that we're halfway through the season, the win at Michigan has not aged well. And, with Oklahoma missing all those receivers and being down, I mean, it really looks like Georgia's the only team of significance they've played. And they got thumped at home. So, I mean, I'm not saying Vandy's going to win outright, but I did grab a little bit of a plus 620 money line. But the main play is Vandy plus the 18.5.
Just a little taste. Just a little taste.
Just a little taste. Just in case. Just in case Diego Magic strikes again.
Yeah, I keep telling you, B, I've got some funny stories about Pavia. Let's go. Now, I like this pick for you, and I don't know about the side necessarily, but I do know Cincinnati. You seem to know quite a bit about them, and that you like the fact that they're catching a pretty good number.
Yeah, and I like Colorado as well. These are 2 of the biggest surprises in the country, both playing outstanding right now. And like I've said before on previous shows, Cincinnati's this close to being undefeated. I mean, they had a 27-10 lead with less than a minute left in the third quarter against Pitt, and Pitt rallied for a 28-27 win. And then they lost 44-41 at Texas Tech when they missed 2 field goals. And Sorsby had like either 11 or 12 touchdown passes without an interception, and they were driving in the like early mid-ish third quarter, and he threw a pick six. So that was a bit like a 60-yard pick six. So it was like a big swing. And yet they still only lost by 3. And that went down as a push for them on the closing line. But I had them +4 early in the week. So they've won 4 of their last 5, or 4-0-1 against the spread, or 5-0 against the spread, however, whenever you got the line. And Sorsby's been great for them at quarterback, 67.2 completion percentage, 1,928 passing yards, 13-4 TDI&T ratio, and 6 rushing touchdowns. And I love their running back, Corey Kiner. And I think it's a toss-up game. Give me Cincy +5 or 5.5.
B, your 2 favorite teams in the country playing this weekend, Miami and Florida State. How many different ways can you bet against the Seminoles?
Right. Man, I put a little, I'm going to quit doing this. I've done it like 4 times in this interview, but I put a little on Miami -21, but I like the team total over 37.5, much better. So they have scored 41, 56, 62, 50, 38, 39, and 52. So they've been over 37.5 every single time. Now, FSU has only given up more than they've only given up more than 29 once. That was 42 to SMU. But I'm still gonna do it. Miami over team total over 37.5.
All right, less than a key number, 2.5 at home. They appear to be pretty equal teams. I'm always afraid, but A&M laying the 2.5.
Yeah, the home team usually dominates this series, and I just being less than 3. I mean, I like both these teams. It's wild to me that LSU's won all these games in a row, because they could have lost a couple
They don't
of them.
even they don't even pass the eye test.
They really don't.
Outside of Penn State, they're the hardest team for me to kind of break down that's in the top 10.
Yep. I agree, and I lost going against them last week with Arkansas. I didn't play the Ole Miss game. Heck, I went against them with South Alabama, but I went against them against South Carolina and won. So I'm 1-2 in their games. So I haven't been very good with LSU, but I think A&M's. They're both on fire. They both won since losing in week 1. But A&M at home, less than 3. I got to go Aggies.
B, you hopping on that Billy Napier bandwagon yet?
No, sirree. And the scuttlebutt, if you will, of him being retained maybe is not going to happen, and it's driving me nuts.
Well, I mean, there's like 5 games left that are against like
Sure.
top 10 teams, so I feel like you're going to have plenty of opportunities to make your decision on Billy Napier. B, we appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys. We'll see y'all. Thanks.
We will be back. We will be back. be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
It's never going to be perfect, right? So we're always going to be chasing perfection in ball security because, again, you're fighting the natural way of things in the game. You know what I mean? So it's not natural to carry the football a certain way when you're running the ball. So it's a technique, and most techniques they fail in moments of fatigue, lack of focus. It's not necessarily a thing where he can't hold the ball. It's a matter of having the proper techniques and having it in rhythm and being consistent.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're joined now by Michael Bruntz of Husker 24/7. What's up, Bruntz?
How you guys doing?
I'm good. Well,
you sound subdued.
You okay, Bruntsy, or are you fatigued? Are you Indiana? What happened? Psychoanalyzing fatigue, or is it just a basic school drop off? What's going on, Bruntsy?
Kind of a combination of everything. I think that here's what happened. So I don't know if you guys ever experienced this, but there's nothing worse where like you don't get enough sleep and you wake up and there's like enough coffee in the little container to do like a third of a pot of coffee, right? So do you accept that you're not going to drink that much, or do you go and just make church coffee? Those are your two choices. And neither of them are good. And with drop off, I haven't had time to hit a drive-through, so I'm gonna grit through it here, guys. Sorry.
That was as close.
I'll perk up.
I'll say you're gutty. I appreciate it.
That was as close as you and I have ever watched a game together, merely separated by a couple of milli-inches of glass. Not that you were paying attention to me and my poor body language, but at what point were you like, I don't need to see this. I can go ahead and start writing.
Trying to think.
It was at least past halftime, right? I felt I got a great pep talk from Foreman at the half, and as you know, when I almost fell down the stairs again for the 6th time, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to get it together.
I half expected to, like, not you, but, like, somebody to be, like, hanging on to that railing like they were like Sylvester Stallone and Cliffhanger, like that. It was that kind of a situation. But yeah, no.
Our third movie reference of the week, and it was it was 24/7 Sports, guys. I mean, do you guys love movies?
I mean, I appreciate a deep cut on a reference like that. So, no, my body language was terrible. It was probably terrible by about 2 minutes. At the 2 minute timeout, we're not calling it the warning.
Yeah.
At the 2 minute timeout, I probably had the glasses off. I was rubbing the temples a little bit.
Bruntz, as we try and close the chapter on Indiana a little bit here.
I slammed that bad boy shut.
Is there, when you look back at it as, somebody that does what we do, are you having any takeaways from that, or you just say, hey, they didn't show up, they didn't play well, let's move on?
Both. I mean, I think it's both. Like, some of the offensive issues were not unique to the Indiana game.
Sure.
I mean, three out of the last 4 weeks they've failed to get to 100 yards rushing. They're averaging, I think it's 2.76 a carry in Big Ten play right now. I don't have that committed to memory. I wrote that this morning, so just to clarify. But no, I mean, I think there were things that, like it's different sides of the ball, right? Like I think offense, you can see that kind of being the culmination of issues that were kind of lurking beneath the surface in previous weeks. And I think defensively, I'm a little bit more willing to excuse it as a one-off. Although, the concern, I guess, is it's kind of like a golfer that is generally pretty consistent and plays the game well, can get around the course, and knows what they're doing, but they have that ability on a bad day to you're a 6 handicap and you shoot 92. Like, I mean, it's that kind of a thing. And I think Nebraska, for the most part last year, limited the 92s, and I think that's probably the one concern was, that was not good. But I think that the track record on that side of the ball allows me to say it's a little bit more in the one-off category than giant concerns about what was going on.
Yeah. So, Bruntz, kind of the it's not low. I don't want to call it low-hanging fruit. The easy question is, okay, so hey, what does progress look like, right? And players hate that, and coaches hate that. It's usually just stuff we talk about. But when you look at the way Nebraska needs to play, how much of it is independent of what Ohio State is doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think you mean going into this week?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. I think a lot of how that Ohio State game is going to go is going to be dependent on how Nebraska shows up, and what they're able to find that's consistent. And I'm speaking mainly offensively here. I think Nebraska needs to find something that's kind of drill down a little bit and get a little bit more focused on these are 3 or 4 things that we want to do well, and kind of find your mojo a little bit around maybe a little bit more streamlined approach. Because I mean, Ohio State's going to be Ohio State. They've got athletes all over the place. They are going to be, I think, pretty ticked off and ready to make a point in that game based on how their previous game went. And so, I think Nebraska needs to kind of warm to the fight pretty quickly because I mean, Damon, I don't know about you, but it didn't feel like to me that there was a ton of juice on the Nebraska side before that game against Indiana. Like I think you have to. You can't be awed by the uniform that's on the other side of the line of scrimmage, but you also need to walk into that game, ready to throw some metaphorical punches. And I don't think Nebraska felt ready to do that against Indiana. So I think schematically you got to find some things. I think you also kind of have to find your edge a little bit more because I just didn't have it coming out of the bye week, and I think that was one of the more surprising things was just how flat they were.
Nebraska's shaking up the travel roster a little bit in some key spots. How fine a line is it, do you think, Bruntz, to not panic and scrap what you've done wholesale, but to understand you may need some small interjections here to close out the season, still sitting at 5 wins? Yeah,
I think there's room on that travel roster to do that, and we have all applauded the James Williams story, and for good reason. And I think the thing that he kind of gave you last year was that kind of injection of energy, like you said. That I think that there's a freshness to it. I mean, it's almost a little bit like you're making a bit of a line change at times, and that's the benefit of depth. I mean, if you're trying to build depth as a program, and you're developing guys, I mean, maybe by the 7th, 8th game of the season, there's something that guys can do that's very specific and give you a little bit of a boost that way. So, Nebraska's got a really deep roster. They feel like they've got a deep roster, and if it's you're bringing a guy along because he's he's shown something in coverage on special teams, or there's a series of plays that he runs really, really well that was a good matchup. I think you would be crazy to not try to get any advantage that you can. So we'll see what that ultimately looks like. But yeah, I don't think I would not see a few new names on the travel roster as being like we are completely resetting the deck at the midpoint in the season.
Bruntz, let's kind of take that line of thinking a little bit further, right? We've heard a lot this week, whether it's about confidence or whether it's about, hey, bad things happen, we get our heads down a little bit. At some point, if that's a pattern that you see with guys, do you go further than putting some new names on the travel roster and actually just say, hey, we've got to go with some guys that don't have that type of baggage yet?
Yeah, I think if the drop-off's not big, skill-wise, I think a little bit of edge is probably a good thing. And this is a game where you're probably going to need to be able to to be okay with things not going exactly to plan. I think that's just kind of the nature of playing a team like Ohio State. So the thing is we talk about the mentality and where guys' feelings are and things left over from the past regime, and here we go again and all that stuff. At some point, like it's football. Like you gotta
like now that point is now.
Right.
I think that point was Saturday.
See, but what he and Bruntz is around me all the time. That's the part that bugs me. At some point, you just gotta fight. You just play ball, man. Just play ball.
Yeah, it's. Sure, I'm sure there's some trauma left over from the way that things have played out in the past, but the way that you get past that is by making it not happen and tackling and getting off blocks and winning one-on-ones and playing with energy and effort. And I think that's kind of the other side of the coin of the how you're approaching things and how you're kind of building this thing is, at some point it's blocking and tackling, and it's a very kind of, easy to see the results of that. So, I think that's kind of where the point where you're at now too, is like, you're getting into a really important stretch here. It's November. It's time to play some man football and not worry so much about the feelings and everything that's happened in the past.
We're talking with Michael Bruntz from Husker 24/7. Bruntz, and this is kind of a weird question, but do you think that's learnable, right? Because I sit here and I go,
is that a word?
Learnable? Is that a thing that you can learn? Because I sit here and I think, okay, like it's not just football, right? Like most successful people in life, it's just like it's failure management, a lot of it, right? Like figuring out, okay, this didn't work, what's next? And being able to do that with confidence without having it kind of shake who you are. Is that in your mind, we're going to say learnable again, is that a learnable skill or do you kind of just like some people have it or they don't? Because we know some people don't.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the hope is you have more people on your roster that it's learnable for than not, right? Like, I get what you're saying. Like, I think some people are just built that way. Like, and that's fine. And Nebraska probably has quite a few guys on their roster that are like that. And I don't know. I mean, I think if it's a question of whether you've got a guy who's, and it tends to be younger guys, I feel like sometimes that, you know, if they're built a little bit differently, they're going to get on the field and they're just going to play and not worry about all the other stuff and just kind of trust your athletic ability. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's probably more learnable if you're able to actually succeed and do that. I mean, and it kind of probably compounds on itself a little bit too, where it's easier to learn those things and kind of make that step as a program when you have things that you can lean on when things are kind of tough. You know what I mean? Like if you're down 10 points, like what are you going to do offensively that's going to keep you in the game and not seem like it's just panic? You know what I mean? So I think that's where it's kind of tough because it's like you're trying to get over that proverbial hump, and you just don't know yet, like what are you and what can you rely on when it's a little bit challenging.
Bruntz, if you're Coach Sat and you know, we're not sure on Dylan's health situation. We know we've seen him grimace a couple of times. You saw him getting up from the pile in Bloomington. I don't know if the TV caught it, but clearly something was wrong with the ankle. Is that a conversation do you think you have ahead of time about, hey, you know, from a health standpoint, we're going to work you like this, this, and this. We may utilize this package. We won't ask you to do this. Or are you trying to get feedback and saying, if a guy wants to go, then he's going, and you try to do your best to protect him from himself?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of have to have an approach going into the game of like, with these set of circumstances, this is what we're able to do and do well. And it's kind of what I meant earlier. I mean, I think it feels like things need to be simplified a little bit. I think that would kind of help everybody. Just from an execution standpoint, you know, I think, you know, if you drill things that you feel like you can do well, it feels like there's some power and simplicity there. But with Dylan, I mean, I'm you know, he's a competitor. He's going to say he's fine, but I think you probably have to call things and set things up in a way that is going to, you know, highlight what he's able to do well and maybe not ask him to do things that he's maybe not equipped to do, given the circumstances.
Because real time, I didn't have much of a problem with the way Nebraska was staying aggressive. I felt like that was something that they had to go through. And then, you know, you can fix it the next time around you're in it. But I think you at least have to feel what that feels like so you can do all you can to avoid feeling like that again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you kind of just have to wear it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
yep.
You're that guy trying to get another inning in the sixth to save the bullpen. I mean, it kind of sucks, but you kind of do need to go through that a little bit. And I don't know, especially for Dylan. I mean, he's a high achieving guy that's won everywhere. I mean, this is all, it's new to him too, you know?
Yeah.
We're talking with Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7. Bruntz, as we look at Ohio State, Obviously, Nebraska is a big underdog here. I've heard some people, I won't mention who, but you work with one of them, feel like that Nebraska needs to do some things that are pretty extreme or out of the ordinary to even give themselves a chance to be in this game. Like, do you see a world in which Ohio State's looking ahead or Nebraska comes out with a little piss and vinegar, or like is there any world where this is?
Well, I do hate the assumption that Nebraska is going to be like the lost puppy dog and Ohio State's going to be pissed. I mean, Nebraska can't be tickled.
Yeah, I get like Bruntz. What does a world in which this is a game in the fourth quarter look like to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think if that's the case, I think Nebraska is going to, defensively, you're probably going to have to have forced a couple turnovers, a stolen possession here or there. You're probably going to have to hit on a few chunk plays, which, I mean, that's Ohio State showed against Oregon. I mean, that they're gettable in that way with the deep passing game.
Surprisingly, Burke has really struggled. It wasn't just Oregon either. I'm surprised without the lack of, and maybe it is the lack of pass rush, like getting guys to the ground for Ohio State. But Burke's he's a better player than he's shown.
The conversation this week over there has been a lot about a disconnect between some of the defensive coaches leading to that issue. Is my understanding of it.
It probably started here in Omaha, Nebraska, Bruntz. I've been talking about that for about 6 weeks. No, something is clearly off between Knowles and Johnson Sr.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's been the topic over there during the bye. So, I mean, there's probably something to that. And I don't know. I mean, it's given the way that the previous games went for both teams, you would hope that both are pretty ticked off. I mean, I think, from listening to the Ohio State folks kind of line this game up, I mean, I think they're a little bit they're expecting a really tough game from Nebraska based on how things went last week. And I think, for Nebraska, like I said, you're going to have to probably get a couple turnovers. You're going to have to be really stout against the run and get off the field when you can. And you're going to need Dillon to play like a 5-star quarterback can. I mean, I think that's a big key is how do you kind of get back to just being more efficient. So you're going to need some unique plays. And yeah, I mean, I think that's the challenge is how do you get more explosive on offense and how do you, make things a little bit more difficult for Ohio State. I mean, they obviously are going to want to come out and they need to start getting some style points here as you start looking towards the end of the season for them. So they're going to be really willing, I think, to do whatever they can to make that score look bad for Nebraska.
Bruntz, as you look towards the receiving group a little bit this week, do you expect anything different in the rotation there at all?
I don't know. It kind of depends on what direction Nebraska wants to go. I mean, I think if you're wanting to do more on the edges, I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit more Alex Bullock in there in specific situations. It seems like they're trying to get a little bit more going for Carter Nelson in the past game. I'll be eager to see if that's the case. And I mean, it's, I feel like we've talked about it for a fair amount this season, but I mean, it feels like there's more out there for Jalen Lloyd, a guy with elite speed that, maybe just runs by a guy, if Ohio State's having that kind of issue. So, I think for Nebraska, you need to hit on a few of those if you're going to give yourself a chance to hang in there in the fourth quarter against Ohio State. But I mean, I think, I think especially with the issues on the perimeter blocking, you need to find a few more guys that are able to do those things because you got to have the short, quick game. If you're getting 2.7 a carry, I mean that's just the reality of where you're at.
Bruntz, in your mind, what's the running back rotation moving forward if Nebraska is actually, like Satterfield said, trying to commit more to the running game? Is it try and find a rhythm with a guy, or is it gonna? I
think it might be more options in at the same time.
or it's like
more
like
option stuff.
More
More
multiple
guys that
backs
can carry the ball in the backfield at the same time.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's, I think that's probably the direction. I mean, if you look at kind of where they've run the ball, pretty much all of their big plays of 10 yards or more in the run game have come, tackles and further outside. So I don't know. I don't think the answer is just, hammering Dowdell straight into the line, because I just don't think you're going to have a ton of success that way. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a little bit wider cast of characters. And, I think the really important thing, and when Nebraska has run the ball well, and it's been in small doses, it's matching up the play calling with the personnel, because I feel like sometimes that is not the marriage of things there has not benefited Nebraska with the way that some plays are called. So, I think it's got to be a lot of the stuff to the outside, because that's where they've had success so far this year.
That's Michael Bruntz, Husker 24/7. Bruntz, we appreciate it.
Thanks, Bruntsy.
See you guys.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. It's time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. Make sure you get to the casino in Omaha this weekend on Saturday. You can win $500 of free slot play every half hour between 6 and 10. Then at 10:30, they're going to give away $10,000 cold hard cash to one lucky guest. Make sure you get to warhorsecasino.com for all the details. DB, there are a lot of interesting college games this week as well.
Yes, there are.
And I'm intrigued. I've got, I think, about 10 here.
10?
10.
Yeah.
10 that I'm interested in. First one is that Syracuse Pitt game tonight.
Yeah, I'll take I'm going to lay the 6.
You're going to lay the 6?
I'll take Pitt.
You're taking Pitt here?
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with Pitt yet.
Me neither.
I really don't. I kind of like Syracuse, though. And I don't know if it's just because McCord's playing so well.
It's because what you saw them do on the road a couple weeks ago on a weeknight.
Yeah, you're probably right. And then you look at McCord's numbers, you're like, oh man, he's kind of tearing it up a little bit. You feel pretty good about it.
Because that was at UNLV, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think UNLV's good. So
and yeah,
I mean they are good.
I'm gonna see. So they're going. It's 3 tomorrow night against Boise, right?
That one's super interesting too.
Yeah, just 3.
Which is also that.
Why is every kid in the metro copying Gianti's stance though?
Because they think it's cool, man. Just stand there like a statue.
I don't even know how you get going. Because every time he takes, I don't know. It works for him, clearly.
I think just about anything works for that guy.
He is incredible.
No, it's all of these Group of 5 games, though, have just gotten super interesting because of what just happened to Liberty, too. One of the teams that was in probably pole position or close to it.
Like I said, I wish I could have said when we went to Kennesaw State it was to see the football program. It wasn't. It was to see the baseball stadium.
I don't think anybody goes to Kennesaw State.
It was probably only about 15, 20 minutes from where we were.
Yeah. I heard it's a great campus, great baseball facility.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Like it's Atlanta Metro, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great place, but
it was beautiful.
Not what people think of as a football school. Yeah. So these Group of 5 games are getting super interesting. Speaking of which, got Notre Dame and my guys. I love a service academy. Notre Dame and Navy this week.
Oh, that's a big number. The effusive praise that Navy was giving Notre Dame is incredible. And are they paying to not have this game? Like, is Notre Dame paying to play this game someplace else?
I'm not.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they broke Navy off a check and were like, hey, let's play here. Let's go. What is it? 14? 12?
Yeah, I'm checking the updated. It's 13.5 now.
I will take. God, they historically play it close. Why the big number?
I don't know.
Notre Dame is really, really good defensively right now, though.
And Riley Leonard's starting to play better.
I'll lay the points. I'm not a big faves guy, but I'm 2 for 2 right now.
I'm a Navy guy, so we're taking the midshipmen.
Navy divers, stand down. You disregard. This is my detail. A Navy diver is not a fighting man. He is a salvage expert.
Just don't start calling anybody Cookie, all right?
Yeah, and I'm all the way out.
Where is that from?
I'm all the way out on Cuba Gooding Jr. too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what's that? Robert De Niro, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
What's the name of that movie? The diver movie?
No, it's not called The Diver.
No, but it's the dive. It's the movie about the Navy diver that gets hurt, whatever.
Eddie.
That's a good movie.
It's a
real good movie.
It is good.
Next one I've got for my college games this week. Do you care at all about Oklahoma Ole Miss?
No.
Okay, we'll move on then. Illinois at Oregon.
I don't even know who's playing for Oklahoma. Why would you cap that?
I don't know. I didn't ask what your pick was. Just do you care?
What's the number?
The number is -20 for Ole Miss.
Yeah.
I
don't even know who's dressing for Oklahoma.
Yeah, I really don't know what to do with it. Apparently, Jackson Dart's going to start, though. We know that.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with
it's your
Oklahoma
Dart game, right? You
at all.
love some Jackson Dart.
I like darts, the game. I do not like Jackson Dart,
How many
the
people's
quarterback.
pens in their balloons burst with that 10 win total that everybody was on for Ole Miss to start the season?
Ooh, that's their schedule got a lot harder than people thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Like, it looked pretty manageable, and all of a sudden they're looking at
No fun when the Rabbits got the gun.
1-2 in the SEC and looking up at a lot of teams, including Missouri and Alabama. This is kind of like an elimination game.
I just
almost.
don't think Missouri's very good, but I don't know about Bama.
I'll say it's Bama.
They're so dysfunctional on the sidelines.
Yeah. -16.5 Alabama.
Gosh, that's huge.
I know.
This sounds dumb, but I'm gonna lay it.
I'm going Missouri here.
They're not very good.
I don't either, but Alabama's dysfunctional.
Okay.
I trust dysfunction less than I trust.
I usually do too. But I'm not. There's no way.
All right, Texas Vanderbilt. It's down to 18.5 now.
I still think the number's right.
So you're going Texas?
I'm going to take Texas.
You
I know this is incredible.
Love big favorites.
It's incredible. It
Just
goes,
as much as you hate man-to-man defense.
It's a lot of misnomers.
All right. I'm taking Vandy at home.
Yeah.
Give me Vandy at home.
Do your thing.
Big Pavia guy. Penn State, Wisconsin.
So what is it, 6.5?
6.5. At Camp Randall.
I
know you don't love Penn State.
I don't at all, but I really need them to win this game.
And Wisconsin's playing better. Although, competition, whatever.
I'm going to take the Nittany Lions on the road.
This one's tough.
No, it is.
I don't want to just be the dog guy. I think I go Wisconsin here.
I could.
This feels like a hiccup for me.
This feels like I could go over.
Yes. Because while I'm not super worried about Ohio State looking ahead, I maybe am a little worried about Penn State looking ahead.
Yeah, I like Penn State.
Because this Ohio State game is kind of their whole season.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go.
There hasn't one of these picks so far where I have any
where you feel good,
any conviction.
No, it's this is that's why I think it's a good slate.
Yeah, but here's the deal: I only pay attention to the games that I think I can understand the lines.
Sure.
And you haven't picked one yet.
Yeah, I'm putting you in the games that I like.
Yeah, I know. It's fine.
Not that I like to bet, just that I think I'm going to like to watch.
Yeah.
Right. LSU, Texas A&M.
2.5. So I'm going to take LSU because I'm very principled.
What's your principle?
Less than a key number at home. The teams are even. So you either take A&M on the money line, but they won't win by 2.5. That I feel good. I feel good about.
I'm taking A&M here.
So listen, you're going to give me 135 on the money line.
Oh, I'll just take the money line. That's fine.
Okay, 135 on the money line.
Yeah.
But 2.5 is 110.
No, I got you.
Yeah, get either.
For the money at 100%. If you're gonna go A&M, the play is the money line.
Yep.
I 100% agree there.
Yep.
Which you can do whatever you want over at Warhorse.
You can do whatever you want.
No, it's whatever. That's TI, not Texas A&M. That's different.
All right.
I think LSU might be a little fraudulent,
Okay.
and I think A&M's defense is really good.
Yeah.
A&M got dinged really hard for a loss to a good Notre Dame team.
Just the back and forth on Wegman is incredible.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Wegman guy.
He's good. He's not good.
That's
maybe they're better without him. Oh, he didn't play. Oh, good.
I'm not a huge Nussmeier guy either, though. So
although he's cooking,
he's playing better. Last one that I've got, and then you can tell me why I didn't pick any of the right games. SMU and Duke.
Selfish.
Oh, you're an idiot.
Nothing would.
See, I like to
please
bet
me
on
more.
games that I want to watch instead of watching games that I bet on.
Oh, less anxiety?
No, it's just I want to have a stake in the games that
another vested interest?
Yeah, I would like having a stake in a game I want to watch.
What a wackadoodle.
I am a weird guy. SMU Duke. It's -11.5 for the ponies. You know I'm a big Mustangs guy. So.
Yeah, I'll take SMU.
SMU 11.5.
Can I get a dog in there? Is LSU the only dog that I like?
LSU is the only dog.
I'm kind of a dog guy too.
I'm going SMU as well. The only favorites that I took were A&M and SMU. The rest I was riding dogs. All right, so which ones did I miss?
Well, I'll can't bet that dog. I'm gonna give you a way to make easy money because it's gonna happen today.
What's up?
Number one, take the Rams.
You like the Rams today?
Yeah, and
+3.
Yep, feel really, really good about that.
They have to win this game.
And I'm gonna pick against the eventual Stanley Cup champion tonight. I'm gonna take the Boston Bruins at home.
The Boston Bruins
at home.
Are they playing the Avalanche?
No, the other NHL champion from this year, the Dallas Stars. Dallas is gonna win the cup.
Boston Bruins at home.
Yep.
Against Dallas.
Correct.
That's your one. And
the Rams.
Rams +3.
Yeah.
Against the Vikings.
Yep.
Is that just must win for the Rams?
I just like the matchup. And I like the line better. And what you guys can do after you go 2-0 tonight, you just come to this back door. I like snacks to get on the plane because I don't eat a lot of. They have like some bad stuff.
Make sure they're meat snacks though, guys.
Meat snacks, and just leave it at the door.
DB's,
or I'll let you in.
DB's here for meat snacks. I'm here for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. We'll be back with Bob Nightengale to talk a little World Series here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Talking baseball.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Fittingly into the glove of Juan Soto. And the Yankees back to the World Series for the first time since 2009. On the backs of a bullpen and the big three of Judge, Stanton, and Soto, they win it 5-2.
This should do it. Taylor collects on to first, and it's over. The Dodgers have captured the National League pennant, and they're headed to the World Series. The Dodgers beat the Mets in 6 and win it here tonight 10-5.
Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. We're joined now by Bob Nightengale. He covers Major League Baseball for USA Today. Bob, how are you this morning?
Yeah, doing good, thanks.
Bob, I got to ask, just from a national perspective, this was best case scenario for World Series matchup, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is what MLB wanted. Obviously, Fox TV, sponsorships, everything else. I've always dreamed of having another New York-LA World Series. Been a long, long time, 43 years.
Well, it's not just the locations, right? You also have basically the two biggest stars in baseball in the World Series, which we haven't had in, I mean, it's been a really long time.
Yeah, you got I figured this out yesterday, about 8 or 9 potential, future Hall of Famers playing this game too. Whether you're talking about, Clayton Kershaw, obviously will, be in the Hall of Fame, but, get Garrett Cole and Judge and Stanton, of course, Otani and Betts and on, Freddie Freeman. So a lot of star power.
Yeah, so I'm going to start this now. Again, Bob, you're talking to a diehard Dodgers fan. So I'm going to start on the other side with the Yankees. At what point do you think we either forgot, realized, or re-realized that Garrett Cole appears to be, I don't know, it's not old form, but maybe was pitching better than we thought post coming back from injury, especially later in the season?
Yeah, I mean, he's pitched well. Sometimes been dominant, sometimes just been so-so. Be interesting to see how he does. He was, good in the postseason, but not lights out by any means. And I think he's the X factor. I think
I do
Garrett
too.
Cole pitches lights out next 2 games, his 2 starts, they win the World Series. If he struggles, I think they lose the World Series.
Bob, with Yamamoto, obviously, they've tried to stretch him out a little bit, getting a week off. With the way that the series breaks, he could do you think with 5 days in between he could get 2 starts? Yeah,
that's where they line him up that way. He needs 5 days between starts where normally it's 4 days. So that's why I have Jack Flaherty go number 1. So you can go games 1 and 5, and Yamamoto with that off. There's 2 off days after his start, and then after game 5, allow us to go games 2 and 6.
Bob, with this matchup, how do you kind of handicap these 2 teams in terms of who you think is more complete for this specific series?
I think the Dodgers are the more complete team. They're banged up rotation-wise, but it hasn't hurt them yet. Yankees have a better starting rotation. Yankees, on top of the lineup, might be better than the Dodgers. But I think the Dodgers, bottom of the lineup is better than the Yankees. Let's face it, when the Yankees started the playoffs, once Houston got knocked out first round, once Baltimore got knocked out, they were almost home free. For the Dodgers, I think they feel like their World Series was a division series when they beat the San Diego Padres. I mean, you can argue the Padres might be the second best team in baseball.
It's interesting. Hey, Bob, when you take a look at the bullpen game, obviously the Dodgers had to throw more than one. It's not ideal, but have been very good with just the one game scenario. When you look at how this series could potentially break down, you called Cole maybe the X factor, but what about the bullpen game for the Dodgers? If you're their opponent and the Dodgers win a bullpen game, is that just the way that it is because of the arms that they have, or is that one that you feel an opponent has to have?
No, I mean, it's work, but it's not necessity. I mean, hey, if they had Tyler Glasnow healthy, Dustin May, any of these guys, Kershaw, it'd be a different story. So, did not work for the Dodgers in Game 2 of the NLCS, but worked the last game. So it's not a necessity. So they're going to have it either in Game 3 or 4, depending how Game 2 goes, and they may have to use it again in Game 7.
Yeah.
So it's an ugly look, but it's been an effective look.
Bob, I know there's been some teams in the past that have been successful, kind of relying on the bullpen more heavily the way the Dodgers have. But I'm trying to remember, in your kind of Rolodex, has anybody won the World Series with the level of starting pitching injuries that the Dodgers have had this year? Because I'm coming up empty.
Yeah, that doesn't jump out. The team that would have been the closest probably would have been Cleveland 2016. And they were just so banged up injury-wise. Trevor Bauer had the drone incident. And they were down to like one starter, and relievers. Andrew Miller was going like 3 or 4 innings a game out of the bullpen. So that would have been the closest, I think. But you're right. I can't think of all these, teams, all the injuries going this far. Gavin Stone was the most consistent guy. Now he went Tommy John surgery.
Yeah.
So, Flaherty, they're lucky they got Flaherty. He was supposed to go to the Yankees, and the Yankees rejected trade at the last second because he went past the physical.
So, Bob, I watched these guys. I'm not going to say all 162, but it's a lot. And one of the reasons I didn't like the Dodgers until the postseason was because I just felt fundamentally they were pretty flawed, and even in regular season games. Then all of a sudden, I switched last minute to like the Dodgers to make the run because nobody else did. But in the same time, they played a little more small ball too. They have sacked guys, they've moved guys, they've ran obviously with Ohtani and some guys. Is this a different kind of team down the stretch? Is it an anomaly? Is it situationally it just kind of fit with the way that the first two series went? They've showed a little bit different of a team than they have during the regular season.
Yeah, remember now, the position players, they get healthy. So they're very versatile. I think Hernandez can play, shortstop, third, second, center field. Mookie Betts can play all of the time, and Muncy third and first. So that helps too. And they have a Tommy Edman. Without Tommy Edman, they're not taking the situation either.
Yeah,
Edman can
they're in
play
trouble
all on the diamond. And he plays old ball. He hits home runs. Who thought that when they traded for him, they're trading for the NLCS MVP?
Bob, I'm going to ask you a question. DB, don't listen to this one for a second. The Dodgers obviously have had some kind of high-profile shortfalls in the postseason recently. Is that something you factor in at all when you're looking at this series, or do you say, hey, new year, new team, even though you've got some of the same pieces, including off-maligned manager Dave Roberts?
Yeah, you say, new team, everything else. And even with the criticism of Dave Roberts, you hear about Aaron Boone too, is that, hey, a lot of these moves are, pre-scripted by the front office. Yeah, he's the guy. But it's not like he's making these moves. These moves are said, okay, we want to do this. If this guy's pitching this well, pull him out for 5 innings. So a lot of those moves have already been dictated. So no, I think the Dodgers are a very hungry team. Yeah, they won in 2020. But it was a COVID year. It's almost an asterisk next to it. They never did have a parade. So they keep talking about the parade over and over again. When they haven't had one since '88. But this is the 4th World Series in 8 years. The Yankees haven't been on the stage since 2009. So I think it's bigger for the Dodgers to win than the Yankees, just because the Dodgers have already been in this situation so often.
You threw me for a curveball bringing up the Edman trade. People forget the Kopech was in that trade as well, coming over from the White Sox, and that did not work out. Bob, let me ask you something about going back to the managerial thing. So it's not like the Yankees and Boone, it's not like he's been above criticism either. He's had his fair share during this stretch. How important do you think this postseason run was for him, considering that Roberts gets a lot of the discussion?
Well, I think for Boone, the Yankees, the Yankees had to make the playoffs or I think he would have gotten let go.
Yeah.
I think once they got in, he was safe. I think Dave Roberts is like, if they had lost the first round to the Padres again, he might have been in serious trouble. I'm not sure we got fired, but it would have been under discussion for sure. So now, now both guys are home free. Both guys are free agents at the end of next year. Both guys are college rivals. They played against each other. Boone was at USC. Roberts was at UCLA. So they know each other quite well. So it'll be kind of a fascinating, matchup with these two guys.
Bob, I want to go back with you real quick. Got about a minute left here. Obviously, the passing of Fernando Valenzuela this week was a huge story, and that's the last time these two teams matched up with each other. Can you kind of just give some context to the cultural phenomenon that was back in '81 for people like me that weren't here yet?
Yeah, I mean, just because when Jackie Robinson integrated baseball, he became Black America's team. Hey, the Dodgers are our team. When Fernando came with the Dodgers, it's like every Mexican American Latino said, "Hey, the Dodgers are my team." And even today, the stands are probably more than 50% Latino fans. At least over a third for sure. There's so much pride and culture, and that's because of Fernando. And just a terrific human being. Never talked to himself. Never came down to the clubhouse. Just did his work in the broadcast booth. But terrific guy. But I think all the cultural thing, everything else, as far as the civic pride with the Mexican Americans, is because of Fernando Valenzuela.
I love the Dodgers because of Valenzuela and Pedro Guerrero. So I'm mad at Ravi for getting me in my feelings, but I appreciate the reverence, Bob. He's one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, like I said, just a terrific guy. I saw him, 2 times this summer. Every time I saw him, he looked worse. But even, he was dying of cancer and didn't want to talk about it. He didn't even tell people what was going on. But everybody knew what was going on.
Bob, thanks so much for the time, and enjoy the World Series. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, my pleasure. Take care, guys.
That's the show for today. Join us tomorrow right here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.